Body खुद trauma से किस तरह deal करती है? That's going to be another one as well. Science says it is the impact that event has had on your nervous system. Post-traumatic stress disorder is basically identifying कि आपका nervous system. You guys are stuck in this class, for example, right? Mandatory class that has to be done, blah, 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 right? No option given, no choice given, right? Like that kind of vibe, right? I feel you. I was in this position also. I completely get it. Two options will happen. Ya to you'll adapt to a situation. Chalo, ab aa gaye, so sun lete hain. Oh my God, right? Yeah, you'll mitigate the situation. Okay? Two ways of dealing with stress. Both are done unconsciously. These aren't intentional behaviors. Remember, finger wagging, pathogenic. These are not intentional behaviors. These are done because the body wants to feel safe again. So how does this work exactly? And you'll be surprised on how, for your mental health, the body adapts, right? It's so amazing. So imagine adaptation kya hota hai? Have you guys ever gotten a cut? Right? Laal hota hai, सूजता है, skin आता है, scab आता है, सही हो जाता है. No niyat, no like focus needed, no like सही हो जाओ, right? Nothing, right? Nothing. खुद से होता है, right? Body का natural adaptation तरीका. So what again, little science, but how does this work exactly? You get a cut, right? So you get a homeostasis phase, wound लाल हो गया, okay? फिर inflammation होती है, दर्द होता है, सूजन होती है, वो सूजन इस वजह से होती है ताकि सारा खून बाहर नहीं निकले, right? फिर प्रोलैक्टिव फेज होता है यार, नया टिश्यू बनने लगता है, फिर सही हो जाता है. ब्रोकन बोन, सब, every injury that you've gone through, bruise, anything, your body adapts to it. So what? Physical health के लिए था, emotional health के लिए नहीं है, right? So for emotional health, emotional impact or an emotional injury, right, which could be anything like moving houses, right? You have to shift again, that car accident, that some impact, emotional impact, right? Anything, you can imagine anything. So what happens here? The first of all, the wound, the person gets guarded, right? Like, for example, let me give you an example. Like, someone tells you, my parent came and told me when I was like younger that you're gonna shift, and I got angry. I was like, nahi. My first response was, nahi. I got wounded, guarded. Then I get upset, right? I start throwing my tantrum. I'm like, yeah, aapne mujhse pucha nahi, aapne mujhse kiya nahi, emotional anger, emotional fear, emotional sadness, there's a redness of it, right? There's a reactivity, there's an inflammation of your emotions that kind of kick in. Normal, right? But this is where people get like their diagnosis, right? This is where people will get their prescriptions, okay? What happens then is, someone comes, my mom came and she goes like co-regulation, right? Or for example, someone came, I went to therapy, anything, and they told me, they co-regulated with me, they told me how to accept this experience. Recognize कि अच्छा हाँ ये हो सकता है. Okay, it won't be now, whatever. It won't be like a bad thing. They taught me new skills. Mitigation, because the body is genius in dealing with things. And it's so simplified, right? Like imagine all survival responses are gone down to fight, flight, freeze. And when you do the research for it, they're quite elaborate, right? Like it's quite elaborate. It's not just the traditional TV wala, right? It's very elaborate. And so is the way of coming back to safety. You will either adapt to a situation or you mitigate a situation. And you guys will see this happen in stressful times, especially when you're in your uni life. Like crazy in your uni life, you guys are going to see yourself either adapting to a situation. Chalo hum log, everyone is signing up for theater, for example. Everyone is signing up for theater. Let's adapt. Let's sign up for theater, for example, right? It says your uni life will all be dependent on how you guys will adapt and mitigate situations, right? And the more you guys know about this stuff, the better your mental health will be for the next 4 years. Because it's going to take a toll. I've seen it happen way too many times. That, you know, that when your stress gets stuck in your body, it becomes traumatic. And so when you are aware of how your body deals with either adapting or mitigating. So mitigating is so like, I'll tell you how the mitigating thing works, right? Mitigating was my favorite, right? Because I was like, let's bail, okay? Let me tell you how mitigating works. Okay, imagine this, okay? आपको धूप लगती है, right? आप धूप पे यहाँ धूप से बचने के लिए सर पे हाथ रखते हो, appropriate. Glasses पहनते हो, या चश्मे, like what do you call, sunglasses, appropriate. कमरे के अंदर जाके बैठ जाते हो, appropriate, right? You're trying to avoid the sun, which was uncomfortable. Is any of these behaviors unnatural. No, right? Like you would say none of these behaviors are unnatural. Makes complete sense. So what about for emotional stuff? For the emotional stuff, imagine you guys, anyone, I struggle from social anxiety, right? Or social situation. I'm like, oh my God, right? I have my own stuff, right? Imagine my own history with like bullying, for example, right? Imagine I have a history with bullying. I'm not a fan of social situations, right? Because of my history, right? Imagine because of my history, I'm like, call nahi karna, text chalta hai. Text me, don't call me, I'm fine. Or I go into like, yaar, I'm not going to your football event, for example. Not interested, okay? Or I finally go into like, ek dafa bol diya na, dobara mat puchna. Is any of these behaviors inappropriate for me to manage my anxiety or my social anxiety? No. Are you guys getting it? Right? So even for mental health, the mind and the body are already mitigating situations, right? To deal with stuff. It's already there. Your body has tools in play to manage the stress that it is going through. We just need to know how to kind of hack it. Or work with it rather than working against it, right? That's all the research that's kind of coming in, right? Questions so far. What happens when it doesn't work, right? Like, आप adapt कर रहे हो, right? But adapt, मतलब काम नहीं कर रहा, फंस गए. Adaptation, 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 adaptation. So, what starts happening is your body gets angry, aggressive, defensive, reactive, impulsive, hostile, irrational, self-centered, poorly focused, easily distracted, inattentive. So yes, sleep disturbances, fragility, in hyperactivity, filled with anxiety, easily irritated, delayed reaching physical language and other milestones. Right? Relatable? Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this. This is your body's natural adaptation that got stuck. And that's when you can understand, that's where the psychology, because the nervous system has an impact to the brain and the spinal column. And that's when, and your nervous system is picking out your environment and deciding all of these things. Exactly. A lot of people never learn those, right? Look at the culture we're in. Like a lot of people never learn those, man. Like there is not, like a lot of people, like I'll be very honest, like even in my therapy, I wasn't even told the different ways to call anger out. Anger भी होता है, एक अलग चीज़ है. Irritation अलग चीज़ है. Frustration अलग चीज़ है. There's a whole shade card of all of this stuff. I was like, इतने सारे हैं, right? So it's all of this stuff. अच्छा, this is the reactive adaptation. Any of this relatable for you guys? Reactive adaptations. So what does it have? It has reactive mitigation, right? So what happens when you get stuck? Mitigating. All the time. Freeze, withdrawn, emotionally numb, difficulty concentrating, self-soothing, substance abuse, self-injury, suicidality, compulsivity, impulsivity, narcissism, lingering sadness and depression, difficulty feeling secure in relationships and reluctant to explore the world. I could. Sleep nahi aa rahi, nahi aa rahi. Here you go. Here's the diagnosis. Here's the device from it. That's the pathogenic mindset. Serogenic mindset is understanding none of these are wrong. This is your body trying to come back to survival and safety. And I can be very honest, and I do want to say this. You guys are going to go through this. 4 years. Again, it's not just 4 years. You guys have life. Someone in the previous class I was giving, I was like, you know, it gets really worse when you get a job. Just want to say this. Like, sure, you know, I always used to think university life was like, oh my God, thesis, exams. You know, when you have to go paycheck to paycheck, it never stops. Just want to say, like, life is quite stressful, right? Because then you're like, acha, salary aa rahi hai nahi aa rahi? Like, you know, it's a never-ending thing. So it's quite stressful. And what helps is when you understand how your body is kind of dealing with that stuff, right? And then you don't blame yourself for it also. You're like, okay, I don't have enough resources yet. I haven't figured out yet. This is nothing wrong with my body. I just need to learn how to feel safe again. Okay. What keeps us stuck? Right? So I told you guys about my bullying. Okay. I was like, and I told you about me being a mitigator. Right? Okay, there's no way in my school, university life I was ever going to go into like social gatherings. So this is what happens. Right? Hamari body, there's this thing called muscle memory, right? And muscle memory is insane. Trauma, or the way my body responds in times of traumatic stress, is remembered by the body. It's this sophisticated, okay? So what that means is that in times of stressful experiences, my body remembered people run, right? So social anxiety mitigate, like if you were to use that language, right? And it was like, And I was like, yeah, karte hain, I wanna do that. No. So you could see my struggle, right? Because my mind on one aspect was like, yeah, not the same old person anymore. Like, come on, I wanna go into those things. And so, what happened was, there's this kind of grip of the past that kind of stays, right? And that grip, until I decided that, bhai, I'm done with my past muscle memory, I have to kind of loosen. It's okay, I can go to theater class, it's gonna be fine, I'll make it. It will literally fight you for it. When you will go into your first, I can explain for myself. When I go into my first class, anxiety, fear, run, right? Like, and you're still like, that's what it takes. And so how does the body kind of, because that's what rewiring, it's called neuroplasticity. Guys, have you guys heard of neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is your body rewiring your nervous system. That's the whole game when it comes to dealing with mental health. It's the whole game that it comes to dealing with trauma, stress, all of those things. That's where the work is. I really want to say, my body in social situations was stuck in fight or flight or freeze. That's where it was stuck. Safety was me having that choice again, that if I wanted to go, I could. And if I did not want to go, I could also. Right? Koi mujhe matlab, like, I don't want to be like, I have to go because of peer pressure, for example, right? That's not safety again, right? Like, safety is being able to move through this freely in any situation. That's what safety is. And so how do you get there, right? How do you come out of this whole reactive being stuck, reactive being mitigated, right? And it's like literally muscle memory that's kind of stopping you from doing these things. So how do you do it? I'll tell you. There's this concept, and I'll be very honest, right? Once you do it, there's this concept called post-traumatic growth. Have you guys heard of post-traumatic growth? PTSD ka sabne suna hai. Disorder, right? What happens is that your nervous system, once it learns something new, then it never forgets that also. Now that I've learned an integrated muscle memory of, okay, deal with anxiety by breathing and having some trust in your resources, for example, right? Like whatever resources. Now that gets into muscle memory. Now I'm like, okay, let me present in front of a class, right? Now I'm like, okay, let me go to a new place and apply for something. You get it? It's a new muscle memory that gets formed, and that is called post-traumatic growth. It's really, after like, for example, this thing came up, like trauma treatment ka jo speed hai na, it went like down. Like people used to think, I took therapy again for 6-7 years. Yeah, I used to think, yeah, that's how long it would take, and that's what you would be told also. It's not just me, like when I was in it, people would tell me, 5-6 saal to kahin nahi gaye. I was like, 4,000 per session, right? Har hafte session lena hai, right? 5-6 saal. I was like, that's why I joined this job. I was like, that's cool. But then I was like, you have to do authentic work, right? You have to do like, if you've gone through it, you have to do this really. So this is how you come out of it, right? If you're stuck in these reactive adaptations, reactive mitigations, it will sound a little cheesy. I just want to be very honest. This video will sound a little cheesy, but it is the truth. And it takes a lot of work to get through this process, but this is what it takes.
Two kinds of people who do not experience painful emotions. The first kind are the psychopaths.
That is how you come out of it, but also brings us to the end. I hope you guys had fun. Right, thank you so much. And I do want to ask, before you guys leave, if you guys have any questions, do let me know about this whole process.